Colleagues, welcome to the LGMA Daily Briefing. Today is date, anyone can remember? 10? 10th of December, good. My name is Yunus Arikan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy and the LGMA Focal Point. So this will be our 30 to 40 minutes of our briefing for catch up of what we have achieved yesterday and what could be expected today and tomorrow. And I would suggest, because most of us will start to be leaving, to start like maybe a mapping of what is our priority agenda in the next 24 months, like the first kickoff. Obviously, we will continue this through our monthly webinars and bulletins, but let's have the first feeling. So, Joe, next slide. A huge applause to LGMA. I really mean it. In a few hours yesterday, when we left this room at 9:45, we have agreed on a very ambitious agenda and we delivered in a fantastic manner. I mean it. Please applause to yourself, to ourselves. Really, really, it was impressive how we can really immediately take action. And I think everybody's watching us. I can feel this, I can observe this. It had impact for sure. So what did we achieve? We had agreed on a step up campaign, fantastic public products released as of, I think, 1 p.m. or so. I think it was available. And we have a fantastic opportunity. This We Don't Have Time pavilion. It was a diverse, it was leaders, networks, it was broadcasted, it was great. And the message was simple, saying that you have to step up and demonstrate your faith and respect. During the day, at 5:30, Committee of the Regions also had a press conference. Alessandro just shared the link, but I couldn't. Yeah, it is available. Yeah, we will update it. So that is an additional point. We will come back to this. Let me go through a couple of points and then let's open the floor. Second, we made our one-pager. Again, remarkable. It's concise and very specific. It reached out to all nations. It is reached to all delegations. And with this, I think we've done our bit. We created noise on the public. We impacted the delegations. We will discuss about it. It may not be visible yet because we could discuss the big debates are still occupying the agenda, fossil adaptation, which is acceptable. But we know we are on the right track. Okay, good. Next. A couple of minutes ago, Global Goal on Adaptation was released. A very brief skim. I think that paragraph 10 is the most relevant one. There are other references, but that action at all levels, from local to global, and there are a number of references. Congratulations to our adaptation working group. And I assume they will be satisfied what they have, because they should be, because the text is without any brackets and it is a proposal by the president. So I don't think anybody would dare to challenge this text. If they do it, this would be very, very bad for them, because nobody would like to challenge this presidency, not because they are their domination, but their inclusiveness and ambition has really moved a lot of the process this year. So I feel with this presidency, whatever it comes from them, it will be accepted. They knew this, they know this. That's why they are still committed to finish this by 12th December, because I think they are aware of their footprint, how it is well respected. And everybody is equally trusting from the global north to south. So I think they build a very good confidence. So whatever comes from the president, I assume it will be accepted. So we can already start applauding, commending our leadership and our achievements of this COP. Next, that was not the next, but maybe the other next. That should be, yeah. we have delivered our high-level segment statement. This was a journey. Again, Ula, you had lost your 5 years in the beginning of the ministerial when Quebec was ill, and he was the first speaker. A similar thing was a heart stroke for me. I was on the train, and I heard that the sheikh is not coming 10 minutes before his slot on the list. So you know the story. We have received this request from the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. They want to take the LGMA slot, and we said, okay, we have to make a deal. It was all agreed. Everything was good. Text was good. But 10 minutes before his slot, he didn't. He said that I am not coming. I could not do anything. Luckily, Gino was there because for courtesy purposes to meet and greet him, I said, Gino, you should do something. So it's one of the very few cases that the Secretariat accepted this change. If you look at the list of, this is the screenshot from the website. We also have a photo from the podium, but here you see the text as, I shouldn't have cut that, but it says Sheikh Tayyir, LGMA, but I don't think Gino has ever been nominated to the higher of the Sheikh, or whether he wishes to, but definitely he's not the Sheikh. But in the agenda, it's the Sheikh, but the statement is delivered by Gino. That was, at least we are there. That was done. Okay, next. Today, the Solutions 2030 Solutions Pathway has been released by the champions, and it will be officially announced in the closing event tomorrow. And we have secured Mayor Barrow. This is the first time a small island developing state is addressing a global climate action agenda event. We are hoping that he will make a plea that he is here to, thanks to the hospitality of presidency, that he's bringing the voice of cities, but who will help us or him to bring all these to go back to the cities, because these action agendas are still not reaching to these people. So I think that is what he would start to say, saying that, yes, this should not be from COP to COP. Please bring, I really would hope he would say that. I hope from now on, whenever another cyclone hits my city, that I will not be alone, because all our leaders, when they're speaking here, they're applauded, they're supported, but when a cyclone hits or an earthquake hits, they're alone. We cannot help them. So nothing is changing too much. So let's hope that we are creating impact as well. Probably he will not say like these words, but he would be a bit more diplomatic. Okay, so I suggest now we can discuss about what we are doing today and tomorrow here, especially updates from the delegations. But also I would suggest that we reserve a couple of minutes how we move, because Baku, for some people are surprised, but I think it's not that I mean, it is difficult. It will be difficult. We don't have too much membership, but being host of World Urban Forum, being an endorser to Champ is already a very, very good stuff for us. It's really very good. Especially, I was very happy to hear that Baku will host the World Urban Forum in 2026. So imagine World Urban Forum 2024 in Cairo, Belém, Cairo, Baku, Belém, back to Baku. So that will be the major things for the urban community. Obviously, climate people don't care what will happen in, don't care as much as we do what will happen in the World Urban in Cairo or World Urban Forum in Baku. But for us, it is a brilliant opportunity that we can make the connections, knowing Egypt has also made the same journey, and we are still aware that Egypt is not endorsed Champ yet. So there are a lot of stuff to go. Anyway, let me finish here, and I see also a number of other new colleagues joining us. So I suggest we take our family photo once again, but I know most of you are aware of each other, but I'd like to acknowledge a couple of new leaders. Deputy Mayor of Budapest, Kato, welcome. It's a great pleasure and honor to have you joining us. There's faces. We have the new CEO of the Salga. Can you repeat your name? Excellent. Excellent. Welcome. A new colleague. The mic.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I represent the International Society of City and Regional Planners. So we are, as of now, as I understand, part of the ANCA constituency, but we've requested to move to LGMA because it makes more sense for us.
Agreed. Welcome. Any new faces that we're more or less familiar? I haven't seen you before, but
I represent the Global Cement and Concrete Association, and I'm sitting here because every city and region needs our product to build.
well,
But also maybe interestingly, our kilns that make cement use waste, and in Europe, 80% of the energy comes from waste, whereas globally it's only 6%. So in your city and your local region, you've got a problem with waste, then our industry can burn that waste. And if it's done in Europe, it's completely safe and it completely makes sense from a carbon story. So come and talk to me if you've got a waste issue in your city.
Thanks for joining us as an observer, and we're of course having pleasure to have this cross connects. I'm not sure whether if it is in Europe that most of it is safe, because there are a lot of things that was adopted in Europe, but we know that it is not safe because it's also related to so many relations. But I know it's one of the tools, let's say, and let's stay in touch. Okay, please, yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say that we are accompanied by Councillor Nkosi, who's a mayor in one of the cities in South Africa.
Excellent.
In Lesedi.
Excellent. Okay. Congratulations. Welcome, Mayor.
Thank you very much. My name is Mluleki Nkosi, Executive Mayor in Lesedi Municipality. I'm also the chairperson of the National Working Group of Disaster Management and Emergency in the South African Local Government Association.
Excellent. Mayor, I thought you were here before. That's probably the reason why I skipped you. But thanks for highlighting that. Thanks for this touching integrator. Happy to have you, especially in the last couple of days. There are not so many leaders. It's good that your presence here when we are receiving like minute by minute requests. It's good that to hear your presence so we can approach you and we can connect you as usual. Any critical updates from your dialogue with the partners and the delegations? Mayor Shiva, you may also refer to your dialogue with UNFCCC Executive Secretary. I missed that.
Yes, maybe Kata, you would like to introduce yourself?
I didn't want to take the floor from you. No, but we know each other. I just wanted to inform you that the Committee of the Regions is now decided to draw an opinion. Together, I and Mayor of Warsaw will do it on a global Green Deal, putting together all the different things we're working on: biodiversity, climate, sustainable development goals, and we will want to keep in touch and work on it, have a stakeholders consultation. We will do it online. We will organize it for the ENVI Commission. So I would be really happy if you could join into this.
Congratulations.
Opinion.
I think, Mayor, this is perfectly timed. I was aware of the discussions we had because the next Environment Assembly in Nairobi in February is exactly focusing on this topic, the synergies about convention. So it's perfectly timing. So I recommend you already put this in your calendar, your Environment Assembly in February 24, 22. Please join there. We will have again a cities and regions summit. And then let's kick this. And because this could be an input to your opinion, and also you can also have your first signals and you can announce it there. So then we can have a follow-up. So congratulations, that's great.
So thank you, Yunus. So two things from yesterday. First, there was the Executive Secretary briefing with the observers, and we raised the issue of reform of COPs, how we can use more of online meetings, and how we can have a scale that is manageable. For Baku it is, but for Belém, as our colleague mayor from Belém said, it has to be reviewed. So what they said is that they're going to appoint a high-level working group in the coming beginning of 2024 to think about how to make COP fit for purpose regarding transparency, maybe a declaration of interest, online, but they said they're doing a lot of things online, but probably they want to do more. There was the question of visas for parties countries where it's complicated, the logistics, and the idea was fit for purpose.
Yeah.
And how apart from the climate expo parts, there's also a space for a meaningful negotiation outcome. So that was it. I think we recorded the answer of Simon, but the sound was not so great. But I think it's been recorded. And second, with the European Committee of the Regions and the European Parliament, European Economic and Social Committee, we had a meeting with European Commissioner Hustra and the Spanish presidency, where we kindly but firmly reminded them of the explicit mandates they have this year.
Exactly.
I read them the mandates that he has. It was interesting also to see that in the European Parliament they're kind of complaining or observing that in some matters the Commission goes beyond the mandates, but in other issues they go under the mandates.
Exactly.
So our big goal next year is to have the same phrasing in the mandates, but also for the commissioner. I'm not sure he was fully aware that it was in the mandates. He kind of said it was a secondary issue, which one of our members, Andres Griffroy from Belgium, said no, it's a mandate. There's no, but they said they have a whole list of demands from the European Union. They cannot afford to defend everything, but still. And I reminded them that in every public position, they speak of indigenous people, women, youth, and not LGMA. So I think we made a point. We went to see him after. There are a lot of pressure, but we'll have also the opportunity during the year to re-interrogate the commissioner when it comes to the European Committee of the Regions. So it was I think a point that we made, also supported by the European Parliament, since some of the members are former member of the European Committee of the Regions. So we will. I think we're planting a grain in the brain of this new commissioner that will probably grow. Next year there are European elections. Maybe surely it's going to be a new commissioner for environment. So we have to continue this in the year to come, and for COP29 I will revise my Russian to be able
Or start learning Turkish.
Or start learning Turkish or Azeri. I think is a nice language to speak as well. But we'll have to explain to our people, our inhabitants, that we're again going to a non-democratic oil-producing country, and there needs to be results in front of this. Otherwise, at some point, the public story, the narrative of it is going to be complicated, especially for us mayors. And to finish with what our head of delegation, Rafał Trzaskowski, said, is that people are texting us that we should be shoveling snow in the streets instead of being in Dubai. They will probably say the same thing about Baku, but this is why we need really to have results this year, next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Chauvet. You mentioned about town halls. Was there any immediate response to that, town hall COPs?
Yes. So we said how we can have different levels with a common methodology, going to regional, to national, local COPs, but there was no response to this. There was no response to this. But we said common methodology, local COPs.
Exactly.
It was said, but not
I mean,
responded.
this will be really on our way. I would really hope that we will embrace this again. Nobody will give this to us. We will have to get it again ourselves. But it is up to our membership now. We really have to go back to them saying that last year it was 25, just an exercise. It's just starting point. Let's make 2,500 until Baku, for example. All town halls, really dedicate a day to discuss COP before you go home, come here or others. Good. I think, Ulla, you can report. We had an elevator talk with the advisor of the Canadian minister. I would like to recall his recommendation exactly. The networks can say a lot, but they are politicians. The politicians listen to their constituency because they are the one who votes. So similar recommendation.
Yeah, so I think what we heard was that because there are so many issues on the table and the negotiating teams are very stretched, they just need additional pressure from within of the domestic governance structure. So, for example, any province, any city that can, come to the delegation and say, we really need this text because it's important to us. I think that will be helpful for the negotiating teams to really make the case that they should be focusing on those particular issues. And we have reached out, that was Canada, so we've reached out to some of our provinces to help and apply the pressure. We'll see how that.
I mean, I'm speaking particularly to our colleagues from South Africa. South Africa still has not endorsed CHAMP. But we know South Africa is so decades long famous for multi-level action. If they hear, I mean, I know that they are aware because you're a party based, but still any interaction with them that you make them feel pressure to say that they're also under huge difficulty. Phase out is also an issue for South Africa. It's also a developing country who is challenging this. And additional positive agenda that South Africa is championing of multi-level action. It's not always the topics that they have to be defending or struggling, but it is a topic that they can proudly step up saying that this is something we put on the table. It's nothing to be done today, but this type of language, we should encourage our colleagues. We heard from this morning from our colleague Togo, Japan, saying that, okay, Japan is ready to support if someone else puts on the table. Japan is the country who hosted the first ever G7 subnational ministerial and local leaders climate action roundtable. There was no other country who did that. Japan is the country who raised their climate ambition because they convinced their mayors to commit to climate neutrality, 350 of them. And only after this came Japan committed to neutrality. So there's no better country in the global north who can speak like that. But again, Japan is asking others to step up. So this is my most important message. I think let's plan for 13th of December. This is also the discussion we're having. We may fail. The step up may not come to any point. But even this is the case. I think we have to take a positive message. I assume they will adapt the language, especially if they adopt global goal on adaptation, if they come up with a phase out. Even the global stocktake is not the language we have. Multi-level is still once again there. But I think we have to come back with a language that at this COP, the really glass ceiling is over. We have really come over this threshold. There's no turning back. And we'll continue to work, but we are taking a huge win back to us. And then it's time. The real success is to deliver CHAMP, to bring climate. It should not stop at us that it is not written in the text, but as long as we have those countries aligned for the CHAMP, we have the mandate to implement this. That's the biggest thing. We did not have it. We did not have this European position paper which says multi-level action. Even if there is no text in the COP, European cities and regions can talk this with their nations, so that these are the tools we should not forget. Of course, we will put pressure until the end, but we are already going back with a huge pride and a lot of homework to deliver. So a couple of minutes. Hi, Alois. Congratulations. We just applaud Global Goal on Adaptation. I don't know whether you have seen. After you finish it, we can say whether it fulfills your expectations. If not, we can talk about it. Take your time. Well, on the way to COP, Baku, are you ready? Okay, good. Yes, just bring.
So hi, everyone. So the first draft of the Global Goal Adaptation is out. It's been published this morning. We're a bit disappointed because the initial draft that we had 2 paragraphs, one looking at direct finance given to subnationals, and the other one was about looking at planning with subnationals for adaptation. We seem to have lost these 2 paragraphs. So we're going to have a little meeting, and if some of you are interested at 10:15 here, we're going to be looking at the first draft and trying to do some insertions. And then we're particularly in touch with the EU, the Canadians, and the Latin American kind of coalition to see if we can try to bring back some of the language. So
So hello is exactly the reason why we're talking here. If you look at the title of the text, it says draft text by the president. And if you look at, there's no comma, no bracket. I recommend, of course, you decide as the working group, but I recommend don't push for any new text.
No.
I think what you should use at the language is that we would wish to have more, but I mean, the paragraph 10, there's a paragraph 31, there are other. I think we should say that we can live with this text and we encourage all the parties to adopt this because this will not be open for negotiation. And if we start to say to the nations that, no, please push this, if anyone, if they want to put a single comma here, the whole thing will be started to be open to negotiation. So we should not go to this because now this is a text by the president, not by their ministers.
Yeah, no, I think what we're going to do is just analyze the text
okay.
and
ahead.
identify. Actually, we could do it with core, like underline like this color code. I think is quite good to show where are we. I mean, you say it's at all levels, but maybe there might be other mentions in the text where we can already underline if it goes in our way or not.
Yeah. Well, your message should be, we can live with this. It's already progress. We would wish to have it better, but it's already a huge step forward because the president is now put his name behind that. Okay. Anything more?
I guess it would be good to understand what's the strategy for today. We have the Magis today, the meetings.
The date, time announced? Not yet.
Uh,
It should be around midday, they said.
yeah, around midday.
But not
so
announced.
Not announced yet, but we have the, I guess you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we should be focusing on priorities. So I think would be great to understand where are we focusing our advocacy. Is this on the GGA and protecting what we have, or are we still pushing on the GST, or are we just like, what's the focus, how, and what's the power that we have?
Okay. So what the president yesterday announced at the plenary, informal plenary, the process is that he will convene the Majlis today, sometime. They will report back. And he said that then presidency will write the GST outcome text based on what they have heard last and the discussion they will hear, verbal discussions. He did not say that we ask for a new text. He asked for consultations, come on, bring some ideas, put your flexibilities, put your positions behind, but common good. And then they will release a text. So the final text will be released like that. Draft text by the president on global stock take outcomes. We would like to say it will not be global stock take outcomes. It will say Dubai roadmap for a new century. I'm expecting it will not be a simple title. I'm sure presidents have this title. It will be as ambitious as Emirates COP hosting. It will be like a constitution for the new low carbon century, something like that. This will be available tomorrow morning. Who will be here tomorrow morning? Can you raise hands? Good, very good, very good. We are good. So that we can still meet and then discuss how to go forward. This means we have 24 hours ahead or 23, depending on how it will be realized. So until that moment, we should push. We should not step back. We should push. And we should create innovative things. Let's not eat here, but I would suggest, for example, we should bring Minister of Environment of Rwanda to Minister of Japan. Rwanda will host NDCP's strategy meeting next June. NDCP is with us in the champ. Minister of Environment of Japan should tell Minister of Environment of Rwanda how good it was to bring ministers of urbanization and climate and the mayors in the G7 roundtable and encourage her to do this. And that they such things, of course, unfortunately, Togo is gone. Our entry door to Japan is gone, but we can still do this. So that I think in the next couple of hours, we should think about this kind of really personal and really ministerial level discussion. That really makes the connection to you. I mean, Canada minister was with us talking. So now this is the last hours and these kind of personal relations, especially, we also know ministers are also human beings. And they are also feeling a lot of pressure domestically. They are battling with their ministers of energies and all this stuff. To hear more that they are not alone, the things that they could put on the table would, of course, will be met with pressure at home, but to make them feel that they have a lot of people behind them is helping them to be courageous. And that's why the last hours of the COPs are always exciting, because the style, it can be the same text. I remember South African minister, Danish minister at the European Commissioner, Connie Hedegaard, and the Indian minister, all female, on the at the plenary. The way they discussed made a huge deal in one of the COPs, because it's the same language, but when you present in a different mimic and different style, it can have a different meaning. Because I read the debate, they said that this was a very bad debate, but if you read the text, it was terrible. But if you watch the webcast, it was such a passionate dialogue, and they agreed. They made the deal there. So last hours is always personal. So let's push forward. Gökşen.
Thank you. I will just kind of build on this. I think on the adaptation, we have a text that in the worst case, we can live with it. So I think we will wait for kind of any indications from the adaptation working group. If you kind of tell us that we absolutely need to insert something in the text, I think we need to take, all of us, we need to take 2 texts to the delegations, GST and adaptation.
I
No?
really don't recommend anything on adaptation. Don't touch adaptation.
Okay.
I suggest
Then
you
we
can
take it
say
to
that you are
GST.
not happy, but you should be, we should be saying that, because that's
Yeah.
what the presidency wants. Because it's a big thing. If you put a text on your name and if it is rejected, it's a big shame. We should not go to that track for changes. I mean, check the text. If there's any brackets, this means yes, we can work on it. But I don't think there's any brackets in the text.
So on the GST side, I think we need to definitely keep pushing the
Yeah.
text and the social media work. It
Yeah.
is, I think it's important. So we started to kind of push the social media work, but I think we need to kind of use all our personal accounts, tag ministers and so on for the next 24 hours.
Mayor Shovi also has a word. Maybe you can start with that.
Yes, Yunus, to elaborate on the ministerial approach. I think it's a good idea. The French Minister for Environment, my friend Christophe Béchu, is arrived yesterday. We were in the same roundtable, and is now also in the final roundtable today at the French Pavilion. I think it would be good because they're launching this regional COPs, which is super institutional. Now they're doing it. It's the way they're going to draft the new NDCs and to.
This is exactly the model we're
So
asking.
France is doing this.
Exactly.
The next one is the day after tomorrow in my city, but I will be still in Dubai. But I think it could be good that we go and see with the other GMA constituency to applaud them for what they're doing, because they don't have much reward internally, where the press is quite critical because it's a French press, and the government has a low rate of approval right now. But to say that we like this, and to say that we also would like France to defend this at the national, and not to be ashamed or afraid, and to put this forward in the. So who is available? So it's between 4:30 and 6.
So, Madison, who was in our stock takes? Are there still here? If not, youth who was in the youth stock take with us, colleagues, let them come to that session and talk about how they did in the stock takes of the local and youth, and say that this is a great continuity of. I think it will be good that they hear there.
Yes.
Worst case, Madison, you should speak there. If we don't have any other leaders. No, I didn't mean that. No. I didn't mean that. Okay, you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
anyone who wants to come and say that they should speak about this point.
Eloise, anything?
Yeah, no, so just for the GGA, what we'll do is like I said, we're going to review the text. We're going to see what are the captions, because it's true that there's a lot of things around nature-based solutions as well, which is a win for us. We'll put it in green when it's a positive. And if there is brackets, maybe we can look at changing the text. We'll share back with you, and then we'll collaborate with the lead negotiators.
Well, I suggest to discuss this and also make a similar thing that step up is already delivered something, and now we want to go to the stock take. Maybe we can use that kind of a strategy. Okay. Beyond Dubai, go to our discussion. Last 3 minutes. So from now on, let me start with ICLE. What we will be doing, obviously, we will have the global task force coordination meeting in Barcelona. As usual, we are having every year. This is February. The same dates we have UN Environment Assembly in Nairobi. This is the one that we're focusing on cities integration about the synergies. We now aware there will be again Petersburg Climate Dialogue. Germany will host this sometime in May or whatever in Berlin. We have June. In June, the traditional climate talks is happening in Bonn. We have daring cities back to back. And from our side, we will continue with Sao Paulo, World Congress of ICLE. Brazil, G20 presidency, you can imagine. They will host Urban 20, of course. Sao Paulo was here, and Brazil is an endorser. Minister of Cities was there. You have heard we have a candidate from Brazil for the UN Habitat Executive Director position. It's extremely important. For us, Sao Paulo World Congress of ICLE is the kickoff of the way to Belém. So that we have, this way we'll have 18 months to work in Brazil. Of course, then we will continue. On the same day, we have the NDCP strategy meeting in Rwanda. That's a great opportunity as well. We don't know when Urban 7 Italy will host. There will be something with Urban 7. September, October is the pity thing is that World Urban Forum is very likely overlapping with, in Cairo, is overlapping with Baku. But still, we have to make benefit of this. Gino, next year, anything that from the major thing from ICLE side, did I miss? For 2025, again, we will have daring cities in June. Definitely we'll keep this. Summit, so September, Summit of the Future 2024, New York. That's important. Okay, so this is at least ICLE globally. I mean, I'm not talking about our regional events and other things. Any critical thing that you want to announce from your side, Alessandra? And just 2 minutes.
Just highlighting what we have in mind, and then we can connect. As Ms. Tutto said, we have this opinion. So we will have the text of the draft text of the opinion in April. We want to have a big consultation online with LGMA. We want to launch at a European level local Green Deals dialogue that could be somehow connected with the town hall thing. And what I was thinking just in brainstorming mode is that we discussed a bit of repeating the exercise of having the common messages ahead. If we would have a draft quite early in the year, this could be the basis for discussion for the town hall COPs, so that we can then gather the feedback and we could claim that our position is not us.
Exactly.
So we build a process bottom up.
Yeah.
But this means that we need to have a draft early. And I think we need to have two versions. We need to have the COP language version, and we need to have a common people version. Yeah. But I think it's a wise and important exercise if we manage to do it. And then, of course, we plan to have a big event in May on the future of the Green Deal that is, of course, connected with this.
Okay.
And then we will join forces with ICLE Europe for Aalborg.
I suggest try to think about Aalborg as this. You remember we were discussing this. There's no regional climate week in Europe.
Exactly.
Regional climate weeks are always to the global south because it's a CDM legacy. I suggest now it's time for Europe, and especially after the elections, probably it's even more needed. Whatever the result, you need to have European UNFCCC connected regional climate week. And I think this year is the time you should start to plan for it. It could be starting with Aalborg or whatever. Nothing to be discussed now, but just an idea from my side. The rest is all good. Ulla, under 2?
Not so much under two, but climate group. We are hosting the Climate Week New York every year. So but this is a very big beast. So one thing that will help me to advocate for more inclusion is early access, because we lock in events very early on, and we see increase in the local leaders coming to those spaces, and especially with the Summit of the Futures. How can we create a program so that leaders actually come and they can have like other events as well, so they can justify the travel?
That's very good, because this year's UN SDG Summit and UN Climate Ambition Summit, what I completely observe is that absolute disconnect. The SDG world and climate work has nothing, and I think Climate Week New York City should try to make really a change so that this is connected. The dichotomy of the environment and development is in fact continuing, unfortunately, but let's make sure there's a progress on that. London Climate Week was also, I mean, these climate weeks are getting passion. We should connect to town halls. Tomorrow, there will also be a session at the Globe Pavilion with the London councillors and others. We will discuss about this. If there is there anything more? We still want to have 1 minute for the family photo. If not, today the pavilion is still very exciting. Just in a couple of minutes, Purya will have a session on innovation, also in connection to IPCC AR7 Spatial Report on Cities. We have IPCC lead authors in the Global Innovation Hub, managers from UNFCCC, so it's good. At 11:30, together with UN Habitat, we will have the similar town hall. This time we'll focus on really CHAMP, SURGE, Global Climate Action Agenda, a dialogue. Some of you have heard, we are kicking this off. This is again an open discussion. Throughout the day, I don't remember if there's any concrete, any other pavilions. Just we heard 4:30 French pavilion. With this, we'll stay connected on WhatsApp and others. I don't think we need another meeting during the day, but stay tuned. The Majlis, we will go to the Majlis.
It's on today's events. There is one interesting event at the Thailand Pavilion at 3:30. So this is done by Architecture 2030, and they're talking about carbon footprint in buildings and how to reduce it. So
Actually, I will be speaking in a panel. I forgot to say. It's about with the Global Center for Adaptation on the stock takes and the adaptation. It's B2 Pavilion 1 at 12, no, at 1:30. At 1:30. Okay, good. Thank you. And those who live, have safe travels. Tomorrow we'll be here, but throughout the day, I think we'll be connecting a couple of times. Tweets and WhatsApps. Exactly. Okay, family photo. Come.
Hello, good morning. I see that a speaker just, oh, thank you, Marika, for identifying yourself.
Hi, good day.
Can you hear me properly?
Yep, I hear you fine. And
Perfect, thank you.
shall I test my video quickly?
Yes, please, thank you so much.
Now it's staying on the wrong screen. That's okay. All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. No, thank you. We've also been meaning to ask you, do you have any slides or anything that you would like to share? And if so, would you like to do that yourself or would you like us to share for you?
No, I'm just speaking, no slides.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
All righty.
We'll let you know when the webinar is starting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to bother you again, Marika, but it seems like maybe your audio is not working as nice. So could you please speak again a little bit further so we identify what the issue may be?
Okay. I've put my microphone a little bit closer to my mouth. Is that working a little bit better?
I hear you perfectly, but let me double check with my colleague, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, all good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know a lot of great conversations going on, but I would love to have your attention for only 58 minutes. I promise I'm going to limit that to 58 minutes. And good morning. This is the third to last day at COP, and I'm sure that like we've achieved a lot all collectively together, including in this wonderful multi-level action and urbanization pavilion. And hopefully today we'll tackle climate change together, like someone who's lost their keys in a storm snow and trying to find it. It's urgent, it's challenging, but we have to get there. I'm Horia Salehi. I'm the head of Urban Research, Innovation and Development team at ICLEI and co-chair of Research and Innovation Technical Working Group at Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. It's a pleasure for me to moderate this wonderful panel because we have a wonderful lineup of speakers and thought leaders who I get really inspired talking to them. And now I've been lucky to have all of them on the same panel. Without further ado, I would like to delve into the conversation of today before inviting our panelists on the panel. So we all know that where we stand. And a quick recap of what we have heard across COP, according to the 2023 UNEP GAP report, if all the unconditional NDCs are realized by 2030, then we are on track to limit global warming to 2.9 degrees. And if all the unconditional ones are realized, we are on track to limit global warming to 2.5 degrees, which is very different from what we were hoping, 1.5 degrees, right? And according to World Meteorological Organization, we are on track to exceed 1.5 degrees in just 2027. So we all know that we need to scale up the actions that we do. And on that front, ICLEI has been working with local governments and cities to ensure that what they are currently working on is solid. We provide capacity building and research and innovation type of work and implementation and coordination and helping them with their climate action planning and delivering the promises of achieving sustainable development and their climate resilience on the ground. We delivered a very wonderful session during the first week with my colleagues from our Carbon Center. However, there is another track of work for ICLEI, and that is advocating for novel approaches to not only climate change, but to the polycrisis situation that we face today. And not only navigating the existing and known crisis that we are observing, but also the uncertainties and emerging crisis and future crisis that we may face. Probably in 2018 and 2019, no one was thinking of an incident like pandemic that could change the landscape of the way we live, the way we eat, the way we commute, and that happened. Or the case of war between Russia and Ukraine is another disruption that showcases that we cannot really anchor all our work around just climate. Rather, we need to take a broader perspective and redefine our vision to tackle the challenges we face, but also provide flourishing lives for current and future population. As based on my count this morning, we were 8.1 billion people on this planet. But looking into the horizons of next decades of the century, we are going to hit 9, 10, potentially 11 billion people soon, which means that we really need to think how we are going to feed, how we are going to provide shelter and basic human needs, but also moving beyond that and making sure that all these big population of 11 billion people have flourishing life and opportunities to thrive, and at the same time ensuring that we repair the natural systems of this planet. So this is basically what we are going to talk about today, and the conversation is going to be around research and innovation. So with that, I don't know if our colleague Murakef van Staden is already online. That's wonderful. So with that and without any further ado, I would like to invite our first panelist, Murakef van Staden, the Director of Carbon Climate Action and Director of Business Development at ICLEI, to sort of take the floor and share their thoughts, particularly with regard to the novel approaches that ICLEI is promoting and collaborating with partners such as UNFCCC Global Innovation Hub, Mission Innovation, and UN Habitat and other partners in this space. Murakef, I know that's an ungodly hour in Bonn, 7 a.m. Thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday morning. Really appreciate your presence. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Purya. Good day, everybody. It's lovely to be with you today at the Multi-Level Action and Urbanization Pavilion at COP28. And apologies that I cannot be there in person. As you know, we are in dire straits. I think the whole COP conversation around tackling the global climate emergency is an absolutely critical conversation, and I hope we will have a successful outcomes of the COP. Regardless of what will happen in that space, we, together with UN Habitat, ICLEI, with its role as a focal point of the local government and municipal authorities, constituencies, so working together with other city networks, regional networks, and this pavilion creates a wonderful space to show what are we doing, the action focus. As the director of ICLEI's Carbon Climate Center, I would like to share with you ICLEI's approach, our exciting approach and experiences in promoting novel and innovative solutions. We don't stand still. We are really looking to cutting edge activities, and we really also are looking into exploring how to enhance the science policy practice interface to address the poly crisis we face today. Now, we are at a critical junction. The fate of humanity literally depends on our fast and effective action now and into the future, the next decade. My entry point is the global climate emergency and the imperative to enable people to have flourishing lives, as Dennis Pamela always says to us. But again, not looking at people today only, but also into the future, addressing people and the place they are in. The Earth will continue even if we fail on the climate change space. So really looking at humanity. Now, Purya mentioned the UNEP GAP report. I think it's important to understand that that looks into by 2030, we should have achieved a percentage of emission reduction. People, we are now in 2023 and 2024 is looming. You see the problem. So we need to find another way to approach this transition and have a higher impact in a shorter time scale. This means innovation and creativity are called for. So how do we transform, not just looking at it from an environmental perspective, but definitely social and economic perspective as well, to shift from problem solving towards solution finding? It is actually, if you think of it, an amazing different approach. So take an example, Western medicine, the doctor, you go to the doctor, you say, I have a pain here, they give you a pill for that pain, but they're not asking, looking at the holistic system of your body and we at the holistic system of the world, what is a bigger problem, and looking at it from a more cohesive perspective. Now, ICLEI does exactly that. We work with our global network of cities, towns, and regions in more than 125 countries. We're looking at sustainable urban development. So sustainable development is at the heart of our approach, and climate action is a central part of that. Now, the collective action that we know can be achieved at the local level is clear. It is also demonstrated. Our local leaders are showing amazing things that they're working on, sharing this through our Daring Cities forums, showing their bold and transformative actions, the local leadership, the political leadership, but also being brave and testing new approaches and solutions. That is the space that I would like us to address and look into today. Now, one of the key outcomes and messaging of the Daring Cities Forum this year was that cities are really already at the cutting edge of innovative climate solutions, and that they are looking towards protecting their territory, protecting the people, businesses, the industry in their territory. So it's a different way, a different role of a local government actually. And that evolution is part of our thinking. How can we guide our decision makers, our policy makers, to look at the data, look at information coming in, getting a clear understanding for their baseline and the current status, and then planning in an ambitious and creative way. And there we need to have everyone on board. So again, in the municipality, as it echoes the national level, you have people in departments, and sometimes the departments just don't speak with each other. That's what we're trying to create, is everybody having a conversation with each other, but also an understanding that the priorities of your neighbor might not be the same priorities as yours, but you need to listen and bring that into the bigger holistic perspective. So we are exploring good practices, what can become a good practice, or what is even a best practice, which means everybody should be able to implement it. Where are the disruptive technologies and approaches that we can bring into our work, but also looking at value generation, and reflecting and respecting the different perspectives that come in and that are critical to bring that environmental, socioeconomic change and transition. Now, we work with so many different kinds of local and regional governments, from the mega cities, the districts, major provinces or subnational states, to smaller communities, and each have their own problems and their own context. But we do see a thread and a similarity across them as well. And that's where we step in with our partners, UN Habitat, UNEP, the private sector, to also understand and have these conversations. Science, policy, and practice, how can we work better together? And what is the distinctive role that each of us can play in informing through cutting-edge science decision-making and our policy processes? Now, yes, we work with local and regional governments, so that is policy that needs to be implemented at the local level. Policy leads to action. Now, where we have a disconnect, and this is also why we are calling this pavilion the multi-level action pavilion, every level of government has to play a particular role, but it has to be a distinctive and separate role. There shouldn't be an overlap of roles. There should be a seamless line, and roles and mandates need to interconnect with each other. That your national level sets the scene, guides the strategy in the country, but enables for the subnational governments to enhance and enable them to act. Quite often we see at the national level that there is not an enabling framework, which is a major problem for us. It doesn't allow innovation quite often. So that is where we need national government representatives reflecting on, just create a system that enables and allows your subnationals and other actors to move and to be creative and innovative. At the local level, again, monitoring and tracking, and that for us, it's really important that the data comes in. We collaborate with CDP ICLEI Track is our reporting system, our global reporting system, where we look at the data that is self-reported, that informs us as to where things are moving or not moving. And that again will inform, and we hope it will be really part of the IPCC process, where the city space is recognized. We need to better inform the IPCC assessments and special reports, and including the summaries for policymakers. The work that has gone into that in the past has shown that it is high impact work to help our local leaders understand opportunities. And again, that gives a snapshot for us to bring in the ICLEI expertise and what our ICLEI network of 2,500 are doing. And it is amazing to see the potential, the interest, the ambition at the local level. Again, what we now need to do is make sure that we can enable the space from national level to local level to allow that the creative juices flowing, and to make sure that we can definitely give better guidance and inform the forthcoming special report on cities and climate change. Looking forward to working with all of you on that. This is an important endeavor, and we need all hands on deck. Thank you, and back to you, Pooria.
Thank you so much, Moraka. Really appreciate that. That's exactly the type of person coming from decades of experience working with cities and showcasing ICLEI's leadership in this space, but also showing the direction to which our organization is heading when it comes to research and innovation. So much appreciated, Moraka. Particularly, I really like the example of Western medicine. Oftentimes, you're quick with diagnosis of symptoms, and if you're not really looking into root causes, it may actually lead to maladaptation in the forms of side effects in our body. That's exactly the same thing. Like cities are living organs, right? And the speed of change is massive. The way we are living, the way we are eating, the way we are meeting is different today, and therefore we cannot really hang on the previous old conventional approaches, and we do need to opt for the type of novel approaches that is crafted around human needs, and making sure that we can navigate all these challenges together knowing that local realities matters, and what we observe in Africa is different from Asia, and what we observe in Asia and will face in Asia is different from Europe and the rest of the world. And of course, like you rightly pointed out, Daring Cities as our flagship initiative to address climate emergency, that's a space that we convene solutions and sort of peer exchange between cities and showcasing good, sometimes calling it best practices, but also our hope is to show sort of showcase the next practices for cities. We're going to get back to that. I see Yunus is there, and I'll make sure to get back to you, Yunus, because I know you have a lot to offer on that front. Moving forward, and please stay with us, Muraka. Moving forward, I would like to invite my lovely colleague Dennis Pamlin, the Executive Director of Mission Innovation Net Zero Compatibility Initiative, to the panel to a little bit, as you see fit. Like you can stay here and talk, but I would love for you, Dennis, to a little bit walk us through this expanded climate and innovation agenda for cities and regions that we have been working on, and sort of showcase the role of city networks, including ICLEI in this space. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I will not do that. I will not walk you through. I will run very fast. The slides will be up there, so don't be afraid if you don't catch everything. But it's really about what we have been working with ICLEI about, and Masamba and UNFCCC about an expanded climate innovation agenda. So much is still back in the 90s, where the whole idea was to make initial reduction in existing systems. That was the whole idea of Kyoto. So we created tools, ideas, and structures to deal with that. But then after Paris, we were starting to look at the global sustainability, but we're still stuck in the 90s with so many of our tools and thinking. So we said that we should expand the agenda. We should, of course, keep on trying to reduce emissions from current sectors. But what happens if we broaden the perspectives and shift from sectors to human needs, and not from those that are polluting, but those who can provide solutions? That's a very different ballgame. So, and there are two things that makes this absolutely necessary also, because if we had the current climate strategy today, 30 years ago, we would sit with fossil-free typewriters. And companies will try to build fossil-free oil platforms. They were just trying to do what they do, but in a fossil-free way. That is, of course, absurd. There's so many new ways. Technology is emerging. We shouldn't talk about fossil-free cars. We should ask what kind of mobility is needed, and even access, because we can have virtual meetings, city vertical farming, etc. So you can get access to nutrition, etc. in so many other different ways. But also that the first round was divided into North and South. North should do incremental improvement, South adaptation. If we talk about the future, everyone should live flourishing lives. We need a global agenda that focuses that everyone on the planet derives the kind of solutions that everyone on the planet can use. If not, because much in the global north now that we call green or sustainable is not. It might be called fossil-free, but it will not be possible to use for the rest of the world. In Sweden, we talk about sometimes biofueled private jets. There's no life on Earth that would sustain that kind of solutions, but we don't address that because it reports zero carbon or low carbon. Next, so much of our work was, next please, was around companies. But companies were moving behind that and said, okay, the first round was about us doing climate risk innovation. We have a problem, we need to reduce that. And that's carbon manager, that's driven by reporting, that is supply chain manager. Now we're saying the world needs solutions. That is the R&D department, sales department, business model innovation department. They are looking at what solutions that are needed. So the leading companies were starting to move, but we saw cities and others was stuck with the tools of the 90s. So the only role of a city was to be a reducer of emissions. Next slide, please. So we said we need toolbox for this. Next slide, or next. So we have developed tools. We started with business, but now we also work with ICLEI and others to say, what kind of tools do you need specifically to start exploring that? Next slide, please. So it's basically, which is saying that we have different stakeholders, companies, VCs, enablers, etc., but also cities now that we added to this. Next, that we work with ICLEI. And this is where I just want to sort of flesh out a bit, because current climate strategies, we talk about climate leaders, but it's really demand creators. That's the only thing that climate leaders usually see as in cities. They're trying to reduce emissions, create demand for new solutions. That is great, of course. But the drive is usually compliance responsibility. We need to do that because we report this to the UNFCCC, or we report that to the European Commission, or our national government is requiring us to do that. And then it's territorial targets, etc. So it's all these sort of old ways. You know that. But what happens, next slide, if we start thinking about tomorrow's? Then I don't only think about me reducing emissions. I'm thinking about my role as a city to deliver the solutions of tomorrow. I have startups, companies, ideas that can be used in the rest of the world. So instead of the driver being compliance, reporting, claiming to get down to zero, it's about my legacy. What kind of mayor, what kind of city do I want to live in? But also the opportunities. What kind of workplaces, what kind of export opportunities exist in my city? I used to compare Baoding in China, who was quite high on carbon emissions, but exported solar power, wind, LEDs, and then Swedish cities. Reducing emissions, really good, but exporting SUVs, fossil of those. And then we called the Swedish cities climate leaders, but we didn't even mention Baoding in China. So what happened in this world? And that is not to say that what Sweden was doing was only bad, but totally ignoring Baoding felt really strange, because that mayor saw what future was heading and wanted to build that city. In a coal-driven economy, yes, but he was investing for the future. Next, please. So that's what we've done there. And I'll just briefly go through a couple of tools and say, this sounds very complicated. No, it's not. So with ICLEI, for instance, we scanned hundreds now of different strategies in cities to see what kind of solution leadership do they have and what kind of human leadership do they have. And we used IPCC P1 pathways with the scientists there to say, what are the keywords we need to, like sharing, decentralization, and human needs being in focus, not saying big polluters reducing. What happens then? Ding, next. And then we can do this tailor-made. Ding, next. Because cities are very different. So then you can look at the different cities and put them up on a map and say, who are leading on needs? Who are leading on solutions? Being next. And then you can see, I want to see those with low GDP. I want to see those with large cities. I want to sort of filter those to see which one do I want to compare with. And next, Bing. And then you can look at the cities. And then you can see, this is, I think, is Addis Ababa, for instance, really strong on human needs, really weak on emerging technologies. Why is that? Is that because they don't have capacity, or maybe because they're working with innovations that are not tech-based? But it allows us to see what kind of cities are doing in this human needs space. Bing, next. So yeah, that's the gap. Bing, yeah, it's going a bit slow when you try to do this. So what we found, what I think was really interesting, David, especially thanks to you, who did lots of this scanning work, was that much of the current climate strategies were not very interesting and not really focused on these human needs. But there were many innovation strategies, even resilience strategies, export strategies that were filled with these kind of ideas. So why didn't we engage them? And when you spoke with them, sometimes climate was not even mentioned, but they were driving and pushing for those kind of solutions because that's where the society is moving. Next slide. So, and that's where we help them now with these kind of tools. This is one, it's about business development and city development that's sort of going together. Next, where we can look at what kind of role do you have? So, and I think I'll end here, and you're saying that what we saw then was there's a traditional role back in the gray little area. That's where the environmental strategies usually are. They say their role is to reduce emissions, and their goal is to report those reduced emissions. But when you look at exporting solutions, when you're looking to be human needs driven, delivering on those, that's Ministry of Housing, that's Ministry of Nutrition. When we invited in Ethiopia, it was the Ministry of Skills and Labor who came and said, this is where we need to build capacity for the future. Minister of Climate, you're saying, oh, how can we get some resilience money or adaptation money in the international conference? Nothing bad with that. But that's where the international conference has come to. It's not a driver for innovation. It's a game when you're just trying to get some money or claim to be a leader instead of really reporting, are you delivering what society needs? So that was my 7 minutes. We have lots of other things. My latest that I just need to talk about is where we talk about brain science also. It's one of the future, talking about Perry and America was talking next level of innovation. Do we live in a society with brain pollution? That we, through fast fashion, fast food, fast social media, is becoming dopamine driven. So we don't think long term. What happens in a city when you start thinking about your city from a brain science perspective? Are people being allowed to be creative? Or are they just plastered with advertising, fast food, stress all the time? And if we think we can deal with global challenges in that environment, are we fooling ourselves? So these are sort of the next generation of thinking also, that cities maybe should use the latest brain science to ask, what are the actual environment in our cities? So I'll end with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis. That is, like always, very inspiring, and I think the way you sort of unpacked the principles of this expanded climate and innovation agenda was very interesting. And you ended on a very interesting note of brain science that, you know, how much stolen my heart. We had a very interesting session about brain science at the UNFCCC Global Innovation Hub. And the reality is, when we are talking about transformation, we can only address the events and symptoms and patterns. But if you really want to ensure that there is a meaningful transformation in place, we need to start from mindset shift. And when it comes to mindset shift, that's where the behavioral change that Simona and her department are doing a lot of work on that becomes really, really crucial. And that brain science angle is really interesting sort of perspective that is now offered into this discourse that I'm hoping that we see and we hear more about that. We're going to develop some interesting, cool materials for cities on that, buckle up for that. But how that can really lead to some mindset shifts, which in turn can we can leverage that to change our goals and then incentives, which ultimately will change the patterns and events, is something crucial to look into that. But I think like this is now the right moment to invite our panelists to join us on the panel, starting with Musamba Thioi, the Executive Officer of UNFCCC Global Innovation Hub. Musamba, thank you so much for taking your time and joining us. And then Ms. Diana Reckon, Associate Professor at ITC. We've recently had an MOU in place with ITC, and she's also the coordinating lead author of IPCC Working Group 2 to AR6. And thank you so much, Diana, for taking your time and joining us here. My beloved colleague, Leah Leander from UN Habitat, who's the force behind all these things that UN Habitat is doing. And she's going to share a lot about Innovate for Cities with us. And of course, Simona Zandholz, our colleague from United Nations University, the head of Urban Futures and Transformation Department. And of course, Yunus Arakan, who's always busy with a lot of things at the same time. But Yunus, this is great that we can steal your time for 30 minutes to join us on the panel. Thank you so much for that. So Musamba, I would like to start with you. You know, we've recently engaged with UNFCCC Global Innovation Hub and trying to support the work that you are doing, particularly with regard to innovation process that you are delivering through a series of workshops focused on human needs. You are one of the thought leaders of this expanded climate and innovation agenda for cities and regions that we are co-leading with Mission Innovation and your hub. So I would like to hear from you a little bit about ethos of UGIH, but also the collaboration with ICLEI and hopefully the partnership in the context of future events. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Puriya, and good morning to all of you. Very pleased to have this opportunity to interact in this very important topic. So my name is Musamba Thioi. I'm the project executive of the UN Climate Change Global Innovation Hub, an initiative of the UNFCCC Secretariat launched at COP26 with a one-fold vision. How can we mobilize innovation to serve the many people and the planet? And a twofold mission. How can we contribute in accelerating and upscaling the deployment of existing solution? Now, when I'm saying solution, it's not just about technology solution. Technology solution will play a very important role, but I mean also innovative policy instrument, innovative financial instrument, innovative business model, cooperative approach, product from the culture and creative industry, and so and so. We believe that this is only when you form a cluster of integrated solution among these solutions that you can have the right response to a given demand. So the other component of our mission is how can we accelerate the development of the missing solution? So you have existing solution and you have the missing solution, and we need to work on all these different aspects. And then we have a threefold core value that justify why we are working with cities and why we have built a collaboration with ICLE. These core values are articulated around three key principles: caring, sharing, and daring. Caring is very important because if we want to have climate and sustainability innovation, we have to genuinely care for the well-being and the needs of the many people and the planet. It's not about decarbonizing the industry. It's about satisfying the needs and providing flourishing life to the many people, but doing it in a way that is aligned with the global goal. And then the second aspect is sharing. To address the global challenge, we need to have a radical collaboration among all the stakeholders that are relevant. So it means that we need to share knowledge. And this is why the Global Innovation Hub is strongly supporting open source. We should not hide knowledge behind paywall. We need to share experience. We need to have a mindset of solution provider. As it was mentioned by Dennis, it's not about solving my own problem as a city, as a company, or as a nation, but it's more about developing solutions that others can also use. And we have to be daring. And that's a very important point if we want to innovate. Most of the time when we are setting climate and sustainability goal, the tendency is to set the goal on the basis of our understanding of what is possible, not based on what is needed. And this is what stuck us in a vicious circle where we cannot get out of. And I understand why people are setting their goal based on the perception of what is possible, because most of the time, when you set a goal and you are in front of a board of directors, the first question that we'll ask to you is, how will you go about your goal? How will you achieve your goal? And you cannot simply say, I don't know. If you do that, they will say you are not credible. And this is why the tendency is to set the goal based on the solution that exists already, so that you can say, I will combine solution A plus solution B to achieve my goal. And then everybody upload. You have a good understanding of what we want to do. Unfortunately, this is what blocks innovation. We need to set our goal and our target not based on the perception of what is possible, but based on what is needed, because this is precisely the gap between what is needed and what is possible today that is the main driver for innovation. So we need to promote this moonshot way of thinking. Otherwise, we are stuck in this vicious circle where those that are setting goal will say, I cannot be ambitious because I do not have the solution. And those that are developing the solution, I cannot develop transformative solution because I do not have the demand. And we are stuck. So moonshot way of thinking, caring, sharing, and daring. And this is why you can understand we are so interested in collaborating with ICLE, particularly under the daring cities. And hopefully in 2024, we will put in place a collaborative space so that we can move forward in deep collaboration. Another aspect that is really important, and then I will conclude with that, is the systemic innovation process that Puriya has mentioned. We cannot address the challenge of climate and sustainability with the current framework for innovation. It is linear and it has to be interactive. Currently, innovation is product push. It means that you develop a product and you look for use cases. It's not how it should be. It should be demand driven. The needs of the many people, the needs of the planet is what should drive innovation. It is closed. people working in silo. We need to have more open innovation and radical collaboration. It's why we have put in place the Systemic Innovation Workshop, where we bring together cities to understand what are their needs in terms of climate and sustainability. And then the other relevant stakeholder, financial, tech companies, startup, research institute, and make them co-create and co-evolve.
Thank you so much, Masamba. I really appreciate that. And I'm so glad to see that caring, sharing, and daring is resonating with what we've been doing, daring cities. So without any further ado, Yunus, I would like to yield the floor to you to actually reflect on what you heard from Masamba, but also in the context of collaboration in future events, including daring cities with UNFCCC Global Innovation Hub. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Actually, I would be more interested to hear from other guests so that I can build upon, because that would be much more meaningful if you allow me. Would that be okay?
Of course.
So I think
always.
that would be much more enriching the debate. So
that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
You know, that's
So
we
let's
appreciate
follow.
that. Like, you took your time. I know you're receiving a lot of messages and getting a lot of distractions.
But we have guests in this panel, so it's
perfect.
good to hear from them.
Thank you so much for that. So, sure, we'll make sure to get back to Yunus. Moving forward, I would like to move to Leah, knowing that there is the Innovate for Cities conference coming up in September 2024. And UN Habitat is co-organizing this with Global Covenant of Mayors, where ICLEI is one of the founding members of the Global Covenant, but also through our capacity as one of the core partners of the Research and Innovation Technical Working Group, collaborating with that. So I would like to hear from you, what are the aspirations of Innovate for Cities next year, and where human needs come to the picture? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And if Yunus is going rogue, I will go rogue as an inspiration. Let me first maybe start with thank you for having me this morning, and appreciate that there is people in the room on the 10th of December. I feel all of our collective energies are slowly draining. We're almost there. And is to say, first of all, what is innovation? I think for many people, there's still a misperception. They think about innovation and they think about green hydrogen. They think about, you know, the next new solar panel that's going to solve the world. And they think about, like, you know, okay, people shooting up an umbrella into the sky. This is not necessarily what we're talking about when we talk about innovation. And I think that needs to be made really crystal clear, that it's also about policy innovation, finance innovations, human interaction innovations, and it's not just these new technical innovations. And I think, you know, we cannot spread that message loudly and clearly enough. And then I had a second point, which was, you know, building on what Masamba just said before, is we are sometimes collectively not very good in communicating why we actually need action. And, you know, you spoke about the goal, and that our goal is, you know, we need to have a goal and need to get there with what is needed and not what we can do. But sometimes it feels really difficult for people outside of this space to even come together and see, why do we even need that goal? We need to tackle the climate crisis. What does that mean for somebody who is, you know, not in this space here? So I think we also need to innovate in how we talk about climate and how we can make this conversation relevant for every single person. Just to give you an example, when I worked for years on energy, and people were like, well, energy, great, but why me? Like, what does this matter to me? Like, it's not about the energy, you know, the solar PV on your roof. It's about what it gives to you. And the same thing about taking action on climate. It's of course about tackling the climate crisis, but also it's about air pollution. We can all, you know, I don't think there's a single person out there that says, I hate clean air. 99% of us live in cities that have dirty air. Everybody can rally around that goal and say, we want to have clean air for our family, for our kids, for our future generations. We need to tackle this. That means we need to put certain things into place. We need to have that roadmap. We need to have innovation. We need to identify what is the action agenda, and then we can get there. We can disagree on some of the stuff on how we need to get there, but at least we can maybe hopefully agree on some of these entry points that action needs to be done. To take that loop back now, Innovate for Cities, and thanks for bringing that up. it looks like next fall will be a really busy time. I mean, Innovate for Cities is, of course, an event that has been going on for a while. First edition in Edmonton in 2018, but it's really a space where we can come together and collectively discuss with a variety of all the different stakeholders, national governments, local governments, but also research institutions and the private sector, and saying what's the cutting edge research, what's the innovations, the different range of innovations that need to be taken into account, and what can we collectively do to move that forward. So we'll have the next edition in Montreal in Canada in September 2024, hence the busy fall. So it's from the 10th until the 12th of September in Montreal, and really as a catalyst for these research and for partnerships that will hopefully help to fill that knowledge and action gap that we are seeing right now at the city level, but also at the global level. And it, of course, builds on a process that has been going on over the last couple months and years. It's the global marketplaces where the Global Covenant of Mayor, also in collaboration with UN Habitat, has brought together cities together with a variety of stakeholders, including the private sector, to say, what is it that you need and how can somebody help you to fill that gap? We'll also launch a new Montreal Center as UN Habitat, really on urban climate and biodiversity solutions. So of course that Innovate for City conference will link very nicely with that. And I think I'll just finish with saying I'm really encouraged to see what's been happening at COP28 and really putting cities on the spot. Maybe as a personal anecdote, last year we had the first ministerial meeting, urbanization and climate change. We had to convince ministers to come there. This year we got overrun by ministers. We want to be there. This seems to be relevant because actually it's the Minister of Environment and Climate Change and foreign ministers that come here to negotiate, but everybody needs to implement it afterwards. And if the ministers of housing and urbanization don't know what these discussions here are, how can they then support their cities, work with their building stocks to actually implement all of what needs to be done then at the local level?
Thank you so much, Leah. Really appreciate that. I think the way you unpack all of this could connect to so many ongoing things. It's like when you're talking about this momentum that's been created with more and more ministers engaged. I think one of the promises of this expanded climate innovation agenda, talking about human needs, is like not only talking to some ministers or some departments in the city that are just like dealing with climate, but also opening up space for all of them. So that resonates well with that approach under ECIA. But also talking about Innovate for Cities, we're also looking very forward to make sure that a space is a thought leadership space and making sure that we are talking about innovation in the broader sense and in a way that we could really transform our communities to more sustainable spaces and moving away from just this silo thinking of, one innovation in one sector may actually be successful, but creating problems and trades-off inequalities, for example, in other sectors. With that, I would like to move forward to our next speaker, the IPCC lead author. And I think I would like to quickly unpack a little bit the collaboration between ICLEI and IPCC in general and IPCC processes over the course of past few years. In 2016, ICLEI led the contribution of LGMA, local governments and municipal authorities constituency, to IPCC processes, influencing the discourse at the 43rd session of IPCC in Kenya, which led that session decided to include the special report for cities and climate change as part of the AR7. Moving forward in 2018, ICLEI collaborated with different partners, including UN Habitat, WRI, GCOM, C40, and other peer organizations in curation and delivery of the Cities and Climate Change Science Conference, also known as Cities IPCC, which the primary output of it, to which ICLEI experts, including Morocco, contributed, was Global Research and Action Agenda, which was approved at the IPCC 48th session in Incheon in Korea in October that year. And building upon that, ICLEI, as the first global network of cities, adopted and developed the first of its kind, a Global Research and Action Agenda, which was approved in 2019 by Global Executive Committee of ICLEI. And since then, we've been actively supporting knowledge generation to address the gaps identified as part of the Global Research and Action Agenda. And moving forward in 2021, again, the Innovate for Cities, ICLEI was one of the core partners in curation and supporting UN Habitat and GCOM in data space. And the output of that conference was, again, the co-sponsored by IPCC, was the updated Global Research and Action Agenda. And of course, a summary for urban policymakers that ICLEI supported engagement of local leaders. And also we opened up a space in last COP in Sharm el-Sheikh for dissemination of it. And we ensured that there is a meaningful dissemination to the local policymakers. So Diana, thank you again for taking your time joining us. There is now a lot of excitement about this forthcoming element, special report on cities as part of AR7. And we have been coordinating with other peer organizations and city networks to put forward some local leaders and some practitioners for the scoping meeting that is upcoming in March and April. And we know that this is going to be a really, really important resource for cities, and we would like to make it an invaluable product, all of us. So what are your thoughts on the special report on cities, and how do you think city networks such as ICLEI can really gear up their support and engagement with IPCC to ensure that the special report is as meaningful as possible? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And in particular, thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, indeed. We are just in the scoping meeting. So the 7th assessment cycle of the new IPCC has started. And now there are tremendous submissions of people, of researchers who want to be part of the scoping meeting. I heard a number of 1,300 scientists that that are nominated by their national focal point, to be on the short list. But the city's report has a high and innovative aspect as well, in the sense that it could develop into a blueprint for how you can not only develop a special report that is based on a particular topic or sector, but that really integrates. And with that, only a smaller part of those who will be nominated will be scientists. A larger part, as I heard, will come from cities and will be city representatives. So that's a very strong mandate that the IPCC, the chairs have put up on themselves. And in that sense, we will see a high representation of cities that can actually put in their experience, their expertise, and be at the table of what will be in the city's report. Maybe even developing into a blueprint how you can also, in the subsequent special reports, develop a systems view and not only a silo view. There is already recent activity between IPCC and IPBES. There is more need to bridge science and businesses. So there are various ideas how integration can happen, and how also the IPCC and its process can open up to integrate more than just the pure scientific literature. There are also discussions how to open up to more policy relevant and non-purely science-based literature. So discussion on changing the process are there. I wanted to also make another point, and that is that opening up for engagement between science and cities, or science and practitioners, for me also would mean opening up not only to city representatives in terms of administration, but also towards NGOs and most particularly representatives of vulnerable populations. So far, we have not really heard about this in that panel, and our research shows that while we are on the city level more and more developing adaptation and mitigation plans, actually integrating representatives or citizens who really need to be at the table, who are usually classified as the vulnerable population, they are increasingly left out. So we have done a temporal analysis, and over time we have more adaptation plan, but less integration of vulnerable groups in those planning processes. So there is a lot where we need to go. We see that also based on research that the higher level of engagement is, the higher is the transformative potential. So we've seen the more you integrate and cooperate in an honest manner with citizen organizations, the higher is the transformative potential of the adaptation plan as well as the mitigation plan. So this means people on the ground want more transformation. Yeah, we have surely seen that. I would also say that we need more monitoring and evaluation, and that in recurrent timeframes. So not only once in time, but maybe every 3 times, or every 3 years or 4 years after we've implemented an action or a policy. And with that, I am a little bit going against what Dennis said in the beginning, that we need a completely different maybe starting point or questioning the system and the root causes. To be honest, in the transformation as we define it in the IPCC is a change in scope, depth, or speed. And we had a lot of discussion whether not only incremental but fast changes, one after the other, always after an M&E event, could actually also lead to transformation. And I can't really give an answer on that yet, whether we need really a change in scope and depth, or just a change very frequently, one after the other, every 2 years, a big change, every 2 years, and the intermediate 2 years, an M&E event. Yeah, and then also come along, so to say, adaptation and mitigation pathways to a transformative change. And then maybe in closing up, I also see a value in citizen assemblies. So I think these need to be much more a standing point of engagement between cities and the population itself. I've heard that Brussels very recently adopted the first standing citizen assembly in Europe, and as a European city. And I really would like to see more cities who are actually having a standing citizen assembly that is asked for recurrent and every major change that the administration is going for.
Right.
So yeah, that were maybe my main points. And with
Thank you
that,
so
indeed, I'm looking forward to the city's report being a change maker, maybe also for the IPCC, right?
Thank you so much, Diana. That was super helpful. You unpacked a lot in your points, but I really like that idea of the fact that engaging with cities from the get-go will actually enhance the buy-in, and possibility of influencing policymaking at the local level would increase. And based on the conversation that we had earlier, rumors have it that colleagues responsible at the IPCC process are looking into creating a balance between scientific people and practitioners in the scoping meeting, which is really positive. So let's hope for this change from the beginning. Moving forward with our next speaker, knowing that you're running out of time. Thank you so much. The manager of the pavilion gave a positive, thumbs up, which means that we have a couple of more minutes. That's wonderful. Thank you, Joe. Simone, United Nations University is not only a university, but also a think tank for UN system. And we have a sort of close collaboration through Memorandum of Understanding. We've been engaging and supporting each other's activities on multiple fronts. And we have in common working at the interface of science and policy. So a lot came up here from human needs-based perspective, the IPCC perspective, then taking innovation to the direction that is needed and all the events upcoming. I would like to understand from your perspective, what would you like to add to this discourse? And what are your thoughts moving forward, knowing this whole landscape is changing on many fronts? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, first of all, for the invitation. I can only echo what has already been said, including many of the points that were made. Maybe let me touch upon the need for innovation and the human needs-based approaches that were already tackled. And in the end, that would have to lead towards this transformation everybody is buzzwording with, let's be honest, because so far, very often we would not yet know what does it actually mean. We have a sense of what bits and pieces should be part of it, but what is it actually? And that is what we're trying to do. And that's a topic I know Ikla and us, we have in common. We were going wild about defining it and operationalizing it. And that's one thing that we're trying to do right now in a long-term study, among others. And that I think resonates with much of what has been said. So we really look into what changes do we need to see and how do we bring together the fact that transformation would have to be a process, but also a goal, but kind of a goal that then has to change further. It has to stay agile and mobile, but it has to also be rooted in linking different bits and pieces, different sectors within the urban environment. In particular, we talk about urban transformation and including also the mindsets that you started talking about today. So that's actually, we have the luxury of having such a long-term study looking into how do we trigger innovation or transformation, how does it come across? And we started with the assumption, yeah, maybe we all need to bring people like having the same perspective, bring them together. So we started from assessing the local communities. We're working very much on the local level. So we've heard a lot about the urban level and the urban government level. We need to include the very local level. That's even more true in cities that have a high level of informality, and that's where we're working. We started off from, hey, let's see what's the perception about climate change? How do they come together? What do we need to change? And what we found is we don't necessarily need to change anything. We just need to bring them together. So after a couple of years of doing this kind of basic research, we see just by working together, just by providing the spaces, and I think you just mentioned the assemblies, it was even more informal. We formed living labs, bringing together scientists, but also very many local people in these communities. We see that it's not necessarily the mindsets that are changing, they're geared towards more integration. That's probably the key change we need to see. We need to inject this perception that collaboration makes sense, that together we can achieve much more in cities, including on the very local level. And that we also, and that's very much key here, we need to tell stories and narratives that people can relate to. And that's another point I want to make here. Over the past 2 years, so this year and last year, we brought a photo exhibition on cities, actually 2 carpets in the Capacity Building Hub. And that comes with a questionnaire. So we asked people to send us photos. Last year, it was, for instance, about what to you as a desirable and sustainable city. Beautiful photos from across the world, just using a different way of displaying it, not using text and whatever, but using photography, using visual media. And next to a little questionnaire. And then we had a kind of a comparable questionnaire at COP asking delegates to answer us what to use a desirable, sustainable city. In the end, the categories are very much the same and very often not related to the technology or to the finance, but to the emotions, to the feelings, to the attachment that I have to a city. And that is very much key. If I want to act on something, I need to find it valuable, because else I don't appreciate. And then I might not want to input or put that much input. The challenge I want to put here, the one thing that really struck me was, it's the same categories that were put by the local people and by delegates or anyone coming to COP, the way this is phrased was fundamentally different and way too jargony. Not a surprise. We've been here for a couple of days and we've heard very jargony presentations probably. But if I explain it like that to someone in a local community, they will not understand. So it's also about how do we then bring the messages and the narratives across? And that I think is very, very much key. And we need to challenge ourselves as researchers and also bringing research to policy by thinking about new and innovative ways of transmitting, of giving the message and passing it across. And that is also by not always being, probably also taking us researchers at some point out of the loop and giving the space for local to local communication. That is where cities networks, but also local networks are very much engaged and very much needed as well. So that I think was to me the eye-opener. We also brought a very local representative from one of the local communities we're working with in Buenos Aires here. She started from not knowing which crazy place are you bringing me to, but I want to tell what we're doing there in our informal community in Villavente in Buenos Aires. And she left saying, until next year, I'll learn better English. I need to tell them more about what we're doing, and I want to communicate more about it. And I will stop here.
Thank you so much, Simona. That was really inspiring, and it's really impressive to see that you're trying to distill the knowledge within your institute and take it to the local community and working with them. And that's exactly where the collaboration with ICLEI comes from. So today we heard a lot from symptoms to root causes from Moraka, anchoring the whole agenda on human needs from Dennis, systemic innovation processes from Masamba, the conversation and excitement around IPCC special report from Diana, and the Innovate for City upcoming from Leah, but of course, like the points that Simona mentioned. Yunus, now we would like to hear from you and what are your reflections to what you heard and how this can impact the thinking, the framework, and the design around Next Daring Cities and World Congress. The floor is yours.
I think, thanks, Puria. First of all, congratulations for this really distinguished panel and bringing all our partners. I think it's really good, giving us the hope to work for the future and to celebrate our achievements together. Since both Marayka and you have, and Musama has mentioned a lot on daring cities, I just would prefer to take the discussion a bit broader, to continue this discussion about where the cities and regions in the innovation process, because it's really an interesting relation. In most cases, we innovate first and we bring to the UNFCCC. And when something is adapted to the UNFCCC, we bring back to the cities and we rapidly roll it out. One example, the term carbon dioxide appeared in the UNFCCC text when Kyoto Protocol 97. There was in the 92 UNFCCC, it's only greenhouse gas, it doesn't say carbon dioxide. The first project of ICLEI in 1991 is the name, Urban Carbon Dioxide Reduction Project in 1991, when there was no UNFCCC agreement on the greenhouse gas list.